Chapter 9. Isla felt different about heading to work. While there was no change to the routine which she'd grown used to, this morning Isla could feel there had been a significant change in the way she viewed her place in the world. She felt more grown up than before her last trip, and having moved up the pecking order, the enthusiasm Isla felt for her job had put her on the brink of combustion. She would be lying if she said that the time she'd spent with her parents the previous day had not been a chance to show off just a little. Despite being horribly hungover and tired from whatever exertion she got up to with the kid, she'd been able to suitably impress her parents with talks of her promotion, so much that her mum called her sister way over the border in Bedfordshire before Isla left them to another evening in front of the telly. Her dad focused on whether Ken Furphy, the former Watford manager, was worth looking up. "Who's that, Daz?" Isla tried to show an interest, but she hadn't a clue what the point of this conversation was. Ken Furphy. You know, the old manager. Semi-final Ken. I told you about him. He went to New York in the 70s. Something to do with Pele and the Cosmos." Her dad's renewed interest in Watford had come about with Graham Taylor retaking charge of the club she supported her dad in supporting. The Hornets were making a recovery from the 10 lean years that had followed the 10 fat ones. He'd been going more as a way of recreating his youth of 20 years before, coincidentally the last time Taylor managed the club. Despite their kind words and enthusiasm, Isla didn't feel that her parents understood what made her tick, and she wasn't going to explain it. Her motivation to get away from the insular world of Hemel hadn't wavered. However, it would be cruel to hammer at home as her parents were content with their lives. She was just frustrated that her relationship with them wasn't closer, but raw honesty wouldn't be helpful. They continued to perform the time-honoured dance between parents and child. Isla took a moment to really look around before the plane doors opened. She was already a mess of bundled-up excitement, but she soon relaxed into the job as the first passengers filed on board. Different plane, different route, but the role still meant babysitting people. One man did stand out, though, catching Ida's attention as he bounded towards the back of the aircraft before taking a seat next to the window, making no attempt to hide that he was a people watcher. She liked the look of him. He was tall and athletic, but in a way that suggested it was natural as opposed to gym-induced. He was like a younger incarnation of Clark, but with less attention to his hair. Isla was a gym dodger, holding on to an unwavering dislike of the men regimented into the world of strict gym routines. They would often adopt an almost evangelical posture about the lifestyle, endlessly going on about the benefits of protein diets, which made non-believers always feel shit about their own fitness efforts. The irony was that many of them were full of steroids and coke. But this bloke didn't look the sort, and he had a lovely scent. That was something that mattered in a big tin full of sweaty people. He looked maybe 5 years older than her, too young for transatlantic business travel, but the smart casual jacket and jeans combo seemed too highbrow for a holiday. Her ability to read a traveller based on clothing may need some refinement on these longer flights. "Excuse me, miss." Her dreamlike state was interrupted by a large American woman who was pulling on Isla's arm to get her attention. She was already talking before Isla had the chance to acknowledge her, and Isla realised this was her first encounter with an obese American traveller, legendary on these US routes. "Excuse me, miss, what time will the food be served?" She'd been warned about the oats. America, land of the free to grow as large as you fucking want. "Good morning, madam. Welcome on board. We will be bringing the first round of food after the drinks have been served, but nothing will happen until we've taken off." "When will that be?" "If you sit down and shut up, it will be far sooner." "It depends on the captain and the weather, madam, but in about an hour. The safety of our passengers and crew has to be our priority." Isla had learnt the required response to this line of questioning early on in her career. It was far simpler to play the safety card than try and explain that the food would be out when it was out, and no amount of badgering from a rude fatty would make a difference to the captain's directive on when that would be. There would be no please or small talk from this lady, just the first of a long line of rude oats inquiring and then demanding to know about their food and drink. "I have to eat before my medication, and I have to take my medication in an hour. I need a sandwich brought to me now." "If you're unwell, madam, are you fit to fly?" Isla could sniff this ruse. Nobody gets on a plane under medical direction without making suitable contingency plans around food. This was a well-employed trick to get her food prioritised and was part of the day one scenario training on how to deal with difficult customers. Isla's advantage was that they were still on the ground. The threat of an inquiry into a passenger's health when offloading was still an option was enough for a swift compromise to be reached. Isla kindly produced the snack packet of biscuits, which she'd snaffled away for herself, and there followed a nod of mutual agreement that this would do. So far, so good. Happy with the opening minutes of her new transatlantic career, Isla took her seat ready for new adventures in New York. 5 minutes later, they were airborne. Isla making a mental note to talk to the fit bloke with the nice smile who was already drifting in and out of sleep. But aside from a large G&T and a tray of airline gruel, their interactions were regrettably non-existent, and after the most uneventful first flight to the US as was possible, Isla could only hope that the destination was more interesting than the journey.